Hello and welcome to the Back of the Nest Match Report. I'm your host Mike, and joining me are panel members Nick and Patrick as we look back at a very satisfying trip down to the dump that is Southampton, where some unexpected Vieira tactical changes paid dividends and Wolves scored an injury time winner that had the entire away end erupting and the rest of the stadium escaping like there was a fire drill. Okay, hello gents. Nick, how are you doing? Not had the best of times.
I'm doing really well. Doing well. It was the first game I missed yesterday, away game, so I had all the joys of trying to find a way to watch a match, but I did. But the stress of it just reminded me of why I started going to the games rather than that 15 minutes before it. But no, it was good. It was very good to get a different perspective on the game because it's the first Palace game I've watched on telly, so you watch it slightly differently. And I didn't have any alcohol either, so hopefully I've got more of an idea of what was going on in the game. You mentioning the lineup change. I'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I mean, I just want to make it clear: you obviously weren't watching an illegal stream because that wouldn't be allowed. You're watching presumably you'd gone to another country quickly and you'd watch.
Yeah, I had a friend who was periscoping it from a stream in South Korea for me, so that was good. So actually, it wasn't a stream; it was a phone call.
Okay, I don't know about the legality of that, but Patrick, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Good to be back. It's been a while.
It has. We haven't been on a show together for ages. Before we start, though, I do want to bring up the fact that producer Sam,
yay,
long-suffering producer Sam, and her husband Adam have had their first baby, and as yet unnamed little girl. So congrats to them both. Put up some pictures. She'd been taking
beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful little kids, and she'd been taking pictures of at Selhurst as she went through her pregnancy, which we shared on Twitter. Quite amusing. She hasn't chosen a name yet. They haven't chosen a name yet. We were trying to think of something around Wilfina, and I thought.
I still maintain it should be Gussie.
Yeah, maybe. I was thinking of other Palace names, so Jordan Clacker after Jordan Much, Much Clacker after Jordan Much, Adi Akinbaye Clacker. So we'll see. We'll keep you updated on what name they choose.
That's got to be that. Adi Akinbaye Clacker. That's magician language.
Yeah, and there's a good chance that she could grow up to score more goals for Palace than he did. So, excellent stuff. Yeah, just a few little bits of Palace news this week. The under-18s finished off with a 2-2 draw against the Chelsea under-18s. They've maintained their status as third-place team, but their dreams of the title are now over. There's 2 games left. Patrick, did you see that game?
I did. Chelsea, a very good team. You know, they have a very good academy team. Yeah. Obviously, based on the money they have, who they produce. Obviously, people like Gallagher, who we have. You know, Loftus-Cheek, etc. So, yeah. We fell behind. About 30th minute goal by Chelsea. Then Victor Akinwale, who, by the way, I really like the look of him and Ademola Adebomi as a striking duo. Actually Mola signed a contract recently, professional contract with Palace, which is great. Akinwale signed one earlier in the year. So, it was 2-1, Chelsea. We got the tying goal right before in injury time of the first half, and then no goals second half. But it's been a really good season. The only thing I'm more concerned about is that defensively we haven't been that good, throughout the year. But they had a really good season. Competing against teams like Chelsea, Southampton, the well-established academies throughout the years, and us really only becoming Category 1 this season. It's been a very good year for us. So, Jaden Raymond was out yesterday, unfortunately. Freon Mooney played yesterday, had a really good game again. And there are some really good youngsters in that group. And I really hope that they can push on in the near future and make it to the first team.
Yeah, I mean, echoed really with the women's team. You're talking about almost unexpected levels of achievement, finishing that high up the table. And this, the chance today was still for Palace women to end up finishing second in the table.
Right.
Obviously, obviously Liverpool miles and miles ahead of everyone else. But they ended up finishing a very respectable fourth, so tight at the top. It was a 2-2 draw today to finish off the season away at Sheffield United. Clifford and McLean scoring. We'd gone 2-1 down at half time. I think the one thing I'd like to mention, and Cara, who is often on the show and ardent advocate of the women's team getting more exposure, you couldn't even watch it today.
Yeah.
It's just that needs to change. If we're going to pay 50 quid for the Palace Player of the Year, then you'd want the women's team in. And I know my daughter really wants to watch them and only gets to see random bits of highlights, which are pretty sporadic on YouTube as well. So that would be what I'd like to see.
Maybe they could use socios to pay it for it, couldn't they?
It's possible. Or some kind of periscoped South Korean stream.
That's the way forward now.
But it is worth pointing out that Palace finished above Charlton Women, who were fifth. So there you go. Great stuff. Hopefully we'll try and get someone to come on and have a chat about the season. See who we'll have a word with the team's social sort of management and see if we can get someone on for a show in the off season.
Just on a wider note there, it's good to see, I watched 20 minutes of the women's game that was on the BBC One this afternoon. It's really, really coming to the fore. And just looking at the crowd that were at St James's Park to watch Liverpool win the title today, it's absolutely unbelievable. So kudos. And it's really last 4 or 5 years, it's really sprung forward, hasn't it? When you consider back sort of during the war, there were 60, 70,000 attendances for war games because everybody was out fighting. It's hopefully going to come back a bit more because, it's the people's game. It's not the men's game.
But it's only the women's Premier League that's on TV, right? So it wasn't Liverpool. It was Chelsea and Arsenal that were vying for the title, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean the division that Palace that Liverpool have won, but I mean even so, you've got to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean basically, if Palace got promoted, you're talking about them being on terrestrial TV. So if they can do that in the next couple of seasons, that would be amazing. Anyway, let us get on to the game, shall we? Southampton. Went down there, went across there because I live on the coast these days. My God, it was a long train journey there and back, but it was worth it. Let's talk about the tactics. A lot of negativity about the lineup, which is, as expected. Eze on the wing, Schlupp inside of him, Jimmy Mack in the middle, Wilf and Elise on the bench. Before the game, were you slightly happy you didn't actually buy a ticket there, Nick? Oh.
No, because you do want to see the whole season through. No, I mean, I was going to say in the intro, I kind of tried to preempt myself for this point now, but do we thank Leeds for that lineup? Kicking the nads out of Wilf's ankles, leaving them so bruised that Vieira didn't want to risk him for 90 minutes?
It's very possible, yeah. I mean... Let's not get onto that because we'll get angry again, won't we? But Patrick, what were your thoughts?
With the lineups, I mean, I've been having this back and forth with Dee and our chat about the Chelsea tactics. I don't have a problem with Vieira's tactics. I really don't. The only thing I want to see the youngsters get a chance. So I need to see Adam Arola, Raksaki, maybe Banks on the bench for the last 3 or 4 matches because I need him to get some minutes. I mean, I understand that, why we play Ayew, why you play Schlupp. I mean, I get it. I mean, he's a manager trying to establish something in the changing room with the players. You can't necessarily you're not going to drop Ayew for Raksaki. So, and as Nick just said, Wolf not playing yesterday to me, obviously, the whole kicking on Monday was a joke with Leeds. So I understand what he was doing there. So I didn't care about the line. I'm just personally tired of seeing Schlupp and Ayew play. I have nothing against the two of them. I actually like them a lot. I always root for Ayew to do well because I hate the fact he gets a lot of stick. Same with Schlupp. But I know what they're going to do for us. So I want to just see, the youngsters play. Having said that, really pleased that Eze got to start yesterday because that injury a year ago, almost to the day, was horrific. And to have him come on and get him to get more minutes in his legs and then, hopefully kick on for next year is brilliant for me. So, but the lineup, honestly, it doesn't bother me at all, Mike, except I just want to see youngsters on the bench. So with 10 minutes left, you're giving Adam Roller some minutes, you're giving Max Saki some minutes so that can build on that for next year. But who he plays this year, honestly, it doesn't matter to me anymore. It really doesn't.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I can't argue with that. Nick?
I was going to come in there controversially with that, Patrick, because I agree with you about playing the youngsters. Now, I was wondering, well, let's keep the players we're going to have next season. Are we going to have Gallagher next year? If not, let's dump him in the 23s and use that place to embed these new players and keep the players in that are possibly going to be with us, because otherwise it's...
Nick, I mean, that is controversial.
But honestly, I thought about it yesterday. I'm with you on that. I wouldn't drop it 20. I wouldn't play him anymore, honestly. I don't see the point of playing him anymore. I think that's a controversial point, but I agree with you at this point. And I love Gallagher, what he's done for us this year, but why are we playing him? We're not going to sign him unless the rumours about...
I'd marry him if he joined us. No, I'd have his
absolutely.
I'd love him so much.
Exactly.
But if he's not with
I'd rather play Eze in that spot, and we'll see what Eze could do with Maka and Kiyate, for instance. Let's just say, or with Hughes and Maka, let's say. But I'm with you on that. I mean, listen, I love what Gallagher's done. He's been brilliant. I mean, I'm not saying drop on the 23. You can put him on the bench and have him come on. But I agree. If you're not going to be here next season, why are we playing him? Because at this point now, we need to see players that we think are going to be here next year. Again, unless I heard there's rumors about, possibly getting him on a loan again. I'd be 100% for that for next season. But I'm with you, man. If he's not going to be here next year, don't give him the major minutes we need to give other players that need for next season.
This has got controversial very early. Okay, I'm gonna give my 2 cents on that. I was just gonna pass things over. I'd love to see Raksaki get some minutes, especially. Got a soft spot for him. Seen him live a couple of times. But it's difficult. He's got to please everyone, and you can only imagine that Edouard's been sitting there patiently, probably not getting many minutes recently. We've got 3 strikers of very similar quality, and you wonder how they'd feel if they found themselves on the bench with Raksaki playing ahead of them. I think personally, it's a good time. Once we're safe, maybe one more win, and we'd love to see it. And if anyone's going to do it, it's Vieira. So on that front, would love to see it, but I'm not sure. I think his hands are a bit more tied behind his back. On the Gallagher thing, so it brought me on to, I've got the train across from Hastings to a few games on the South Coast since I moved down here. I moved down here in 2018, I think. And I've been to, Bournemouth away and Southampton away a couple of times, etc. And it's amazing how many more Palace fans are on the train across. Palace fans with the guts to wear a Palace shirt as we change at Brighton. The whole train there and back was full of Palace, no Southampton. And I wonder what the reaction would be from these young, it's great to see this sort of group of 18-year-old kids all travelling over to watch Palace away. But when you're maybe didn't have a team when you were young, maybe your mum and dad didn't give you a team, and you've chosen one now, you probably still want to see Gallagher before he goes. So it's a difficult one, because some of the younger fans might want to see those players. I think the good of the team is more important than that, but we are doing something right with getting new fans. There's no question, because just the sheer level that Palace have got more popular by being in the Premier League for 9 years is just mind-blowing. And Vieira could only have helped that along. So we'll see. It's a difficult one. If he doesn't play again, I certainly won't lose any sleep over it.
I do hate the fact, though, that when I first moved to where I live, it was mainly Charlton, and now it's mainly Palace kids, but none of them know the misery, and I just want them to know a little bit of that misery so they know.
There'll be misery. There's plenty of misery. We haven't got over Wembley yet. Jesus. Don't worry about that. If they're supporting Palace for us to allow us, they'll get some misery. Let's just touch on what went wrong in the first half. We were discussing it in the grounds, discussing it with Chris Clark of This Parish and a few other people. For me, Eze he does his thing, and I love him, the sort of gliding football, but it didn't seem to be working down the wing. It was a little bit too slow. I thought that we were just a bit more laboured in build-ups than we have been in the past. But it's not that we played particularly badly. Southampton played fairly well. Their dead balls, as ever, were really good. We can talk about the goal in a minute. I think it was very unlucky. I think that MacArthur thought Ward was going to get it, then he didn't, and that was it. We were 1-0 down. What went wrong in the first half? Tell me from watching it on the TV. Patrick, start with you.
Sure. For me, I think you kind of nailed it with Ebbs. I love Ebbs as a number 10, but when he's out wide, he's not as effective. And exactly the reason why I want to see him play in Gallagher's role. I want him to be in an 8 position where he can get forward the way that Gallagher does. He can press and get involved more that way. We are very lacking with width when it's Ayew and let's say Schlupp or Eze as opposed to Olise and Zaha. But having said that, I thought the wide players, and I guess I'm really talking more about even Klein, they put some good balls in, I thought, for Mateta for headers that he didn't connect on. So I like that part of the game, but I agree with you. I just think the wide players that we had playing out wide are not our ideal wide players, and it just hurts the way we play. And again, not having Ebbs in a position I think of that he's more comfortable with. But again, I like the fact that we're getting to that in a minute, that Vieira did make the change, and Ebbs was a little bit more free flowing in the second half, which really helped him and us. But I think first half we just didn't have the right players in the right spots.
That's what it seemed like in the ground. I mean, Nick, from how was it looking from South Korea?
Yeah, it looked as if Eze was going to come off moments before he scored as well, didn't he? But look, I'm going to look at this in a positive way, in the fact that we've got a group of players there. We've got Wilf, we've got Eze, we've got Olise, we've got Ayew who can play in lots of different positions. Schlupp can play in many different positions. That's just 5 off the top of my head who can play almost anywhere in the front, maybe apart from up front as a striker that Wilf can do. So we're getting a team where we've got a lot more fluidity in what the players can do, which means we can change a lot more in game when we need to, and I think that's what happened with Vieira. He wanted to give Eze the minutes. Look how he brought Olise into the fold and got him going after his back injury. We know that he's good at getting players back to their best, and so actually bringing him on, yes, he was out on the left, he didn't perform that brilliant, but he'd have learnt something when he was playing, and he's got that all-important goal, which is a big step, almost a year to the day, as Patrick says, to his recovery, and that is a real psychological boost. It's going to be a complete boost.
And it's the first goal, apparently, he scored in front of Palace fans. Read that on Twitter today. That is nuts.
I was cursing that.
Yeah, it makes sense because obviously the goals he scored last year, like the Leeds game, obviously were no fans at all. So yeah, I mean, and what I loved about that was the reaction of the fans. Obviously, he scored it in a way, and then obviously when he got subbed off, the reception he gave him as he was leaving was brilliant. And again, I watched the post-match interview with him, and he really is a tremendously nice person as far as just a human being, easy to root for, easy to like. And Zaha's comments by him also. Again, that injury, it's a devastating injury for him to be back. At the levels that he's getting back to, it does take over a year to get back from it. So I think next year he'll be firing, which would be great for us. It'll be like a new signing. I hate that saying, but it's going to be true.
Yeah, definitely. And I put in the show doc, was Vieira's choices as left field as they seemed vindicated in the fact that Eze scored, the ball came over to him from Ayew, who had his critics before the game,
right? And
Jimmy Mack set up the winner. So they're all involved in us winning that game. So. I mean, what can you say?
Was that our strongest bench we've ever had?
It's got to be one of. Think about it. It's got to be one of. I mean, you got Wilf, Olise, Benteke, Edouard, Will Hughes. That's a ridiculous bench for Crystal Palace to have.
They could all start, couldn't they?
They all have. So yeah, and was Mitchell on the bench? He was, right? Yeah, Mitchell, obviously, because Ward played. Yeah, absolutely. It had to be our best bench. I mean, it just bodes well for the future as far as that's concerned. And again, that's why, Dee and I are having this conversation, but I keep speaking it up. I can't help it. But the tactical complaints about Vieira, to me, aren't valid because of the fact that he is learning. But more importantly, you've got so many players to choose from On any given day, of course, you're going to want X, Y, and Z player to play. But again, my only issue, honestly, is just the youngsters getting some minutes. I don't care. I mean, I know you meant to point before, Mike, about them playing. No, I don't expect them to start. Don't get me wrong. I don't expect them to start over an Ayew or Benteke or Edouard because they're veterans. They deserve to play. But I want them to get minutes that, to me, it's so invaluable to have them get on the pitch at this point in this season. Look what we did for Mitchell under Roy, and then the following season how he came on. I'm not saying Ademola starts for Mitchell next season or Raksaki starts for us, but the fact that we can have them as options off the bench next season, and then when Mitchell gets injured, God forbid, and now you got Ademola who's had some minutes, now you say, okay, that's a decent replacement as opposed to putting Wardy there, or instead of having Schlupp out wide right, or you got Raksaki to come in, you're like saying to yourself, okay, they play before, we know what they can do. And again, I'm a big academy person. It just makes people like Akinwale and Ademola and those other players younger down say, okay, I have a chance to get a true chance now, not Mitchell 1 year, then 2 years before him, Wan-Bissaka 2 years before. You know what I mean? It's really saying, okay, we're putting 2-3 players in our squad every season. It just makes it to me that much more exciting. That's where I'm coming from anyway. So,
well, if anyone's going to do it, I mean, it's Vieira, isn't it? I do just want to read a tweet that Tom Dutton put on Twitter, and he's got a tick. So
I thought he's very good. He puts out some great tweets, match days after matches. I love Tom. He's really good. But go ahead.
Yeah, ex-Evening Standard apparently. So our goal difference is +3 through 34 games. We've never had a positive goal difference through an entire Premier League campaign. Last season was -25, our worst goal difference across a Premier League season since returning in 2013. Tell me again how Vieira has taken Palace from 14th to 14th. I mean, he does some things you don't expect. But he's got that in his locker, and we spent 2 seasons moaning that a certain someone else did nothing that we couldn't have guessed. So, I mean,
can I come in?
Yeah, I just want to say I think DR is trolling you pretty hard, Patrick. But I just
it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
I was listening to a Watford fan yesterday, and I don't know if you've seen the tweet where Palace fans saying, I really feel bad about upsetting Roy by relegating them. And then there's a clip of Barry from EastEnders singing, I'm going to do it anyway, or we're going to do it anyway, which really made me check that out. But Watford fans complaining, I'll send you a link. And maybe.
But can we still relegate them now? Because are there other games before that? Because the fact that the other teams have all won, I don't know if we will still relegate them. I haven't sat and done the maths, but I did see a Watford fan just tweeting a picture of Phil Mitchell looking dishevelled, like looking really sad, drinking directly out of a whiskey bottle, and he's like, "Yeah, Palace are going to relegate us."
But I was thinking about Roy. I try not to, but listening to somebody on 606 yesterday evening talking about Roy not being the right fit for the job, and it made me wonder. Were our players so good that we stayed up despite of Roy rather than because of Roy? That's all I'm going to say, because they haven't won at all. And I was listening to Ray Lewington making terrible excuses for them. But
let's just say, if Hambo was on this, he'd give you the answer on that. I think. I'm not sure I know the answer to that. And Hambo's he's doing something with dogs, isn't he today? He's dogging.
And actually, also, Mike, now you've said it, I can actually see you in my mind's eye sitting down and doing some maths. You've got that look about you.
Have I? I can promise you, maths is not my strong point. It's definitely not my strong point. I haven't yet worked out what my strong point is, really, to be honest. No, I mean, I don't know. I think our squad is infinitely better. And I know that's why people are saying, it should be higher than 14. It's like, I'm sure our net wage bill is lower, and he chose those players. He actively went against the choices that were given to him. So Patrick.
Yeah, let me just go on that point you were saying just about, Tom's tweet and then our position. So I'm not going to go into the managers, but just listen to the points, the position, and the goal difference for our last 8 years in the Premiership. So our first year, we were 11th, 45 points, minus 15 goal difference. Our second year, 10th, 48 points, minus 4 goal difference. Our third year, 15th, minus 14, 42 points. fourth year, 14th, 41 points, minus 13 goal difference. The following season, 11th place, 44 points, minus 11 goal difference. The following year, 49 points, 12 points, minus 2. Easily our best goal difference year. That was obviously under Hodgson. 2 seasons ago, 14th place, 43 points, minus 19 goal difference. And then last year, 14th, 44 points, minus 25 goal difference. So as far as, obviously our best season was the Pardew year, the 10th season. And then goal difference wise, again, we were -4. The goal difference wise is definitely the Hodgson year of 2 years ago. But you have to think that the progression that we've had, we're on 41 points now, we're in 12th position. We're +2 goal difference. I mean, for me, the progression, because that's the only way you progress in the league is to increase your defending and your goal scoring. You can't be a minus goal difference and consider yourself a progressive team, because you're going to end up in the bottom half of the table, guaranteed. So for me, we're definitely building a side that, 1, can defend better, 2, scoring better. You got Wilf on 13 goals this season. The football to watch, to me, infinitely better. Again, forget arguing about lineups. I can watch this Palace team play. Maybe not the Leicester game, because we were definitely not playing because we were worried about the semi-final. I can watch this team play more than any team I can remember since probably that first year under Pardew. Every other team I hated watching. Hated watching under Pulis. Hated watching on Allardyce. Hated watching towards the end of Pardew. Hated watching under Hodgson. All the years, even the year that he kept us up when we had that such poor start, I couldn't watch it. It got progressively worse. So from my standpoint, the eye test tells me, and even the stats tell me, we're a much better team in all departments, and the future is much brighter. Yes, Vieira has a lot to learn. What manager doesn't? Because I mean, me and Dee's argument, like we're comparing him to Pep. Apparently, Pep's overthinks things. I said, okay, great. You're comparing him to the best manager in the world, possibly. So the fact that he's learning on the job doesn't bother me, because you'll look at yesterday, for an example. Our first win after falling behind all season was yesterday. We complained all year about how we would lose leads. I mean, he's getting better as a manager, and I'm just looking forward to next season more than I have in a very long time.
Yeah, and I've got to say, one thing that you do when you compare year on year is you don't take into account the quality of the other sides. And
exactly.
This season's Premier League is so much stronger than last season's.
Phenomenal.
You got 18 sides. Well, all right, take out Man City and Liverpool. You got 16 sides. Not the bottom 2, not the top 2, that can literally beat anyone. And that certainly wasn't the case last year with some of the sides in there. So
100%.
Yeah, it's not comparing apples for apples. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about super subs, really. Do you think we're going to become one of those teams where it seems like this is the first season where we've had what I'd describe as a super sub in Elise? Is it a good way to go? Do you think it's just necessity due to the fact, like you said, Leeds absolutely destroyed Wilf's shins? Or do you think it's something Vieira tends to do? I mean, I don't remember enough about his stint in the MLS to know if it's one of his modus operandi, really. Patrick?
Well, from my standpoint, he was the NYCFC coach. Honestly, the squad wasn't as good as here. I would say the better comparison would be the Nice teams that he had. I don't know if you guys know, he had Alan St. Maximin was one of his star players. So he had a pretty good squad. I think it really depends on the depth of the squad. And again, I think the Nice squad and our squad are comparable from the standpoint. He has some decent players on the bench at Nice that would come on and impact matches. Pierre Lise Malou from Norwich is on that side. So from that standpoint, he could make changes. I think it really depends on the depth of the squad. But again, what I like about him is that he utilizes all of these players. He doesn't really bury players. The only player he ever buried was I'm forgetting the name. Who's the Man City player? Or why always me?
Balotelli.
Balotelli, when he got there at Nice, he got bummed about the squad right away because Balotelli was just a nightmare to manage. So him aside, he really does a great job of building a squad of youngsters, veterans, and everybody gets a feel for being part of the team. So for me, that's the best comparison. So I think he's very much a squad manager, and I think that super sub thing is something he loves. Again, if you remember, yesterday he talked about when he sent Wilf on, he gave him a specific job to do. And I'm sure I didn't watch the tweets at the time. People were saying, why are you putting Wilf up front? Wilf's not a striker, blah, blah, blah. What does Wilf do? He holds the ball up very well. He brings players into the game. His passing's gotten much, much better. And it was a really good finish. So I think it was a great sub. I probably wouldn't have bought in Wilf. I probably bought Benteke in. But that shows you what we know about this team. So, super sub-wise, I think it does a good job.
Did that goal remind you of David Pleats against Belgium in the World Cup all them years ago?
That was a great
shimmy.
Yeah.
And
that was
David Pleat as a footballer, not even as a manager, just as a footballer.
Yeah.
When was it? When was
no,
this?
No. He meant to say David Platt, not David Pleat.
Oh, okay.
David Platt, yes. No, not David Pleat. David Pleat. I'm not that old.
I'm sure it's David Platt, right?
Mate, if I don't get one name wrong a programme, we've got to re-record.
I was going to say, you must be about 100. David Platt's 1990 goal against Belgium. Okay, wasn't that on the turn over his shoulder?
On the turn.
Well, it meant as much. I don't know.
I'll tell you what.
It just reminded me of
we went nuts in just absolutely erupted in the away end. I don't quite know why Southampton give as many away tickets as they do, because there's enough of you to really sort of take over the volume of the ground. And
again, that's the thing I noticed. Sorry, Mike, to interrupt you there. Having gone to every game this season, how fucking great Selhurst is for atmosphere. Because you go to all the other grounds and bar Leeds and maybe a couple of others, nowhere touches Selhurst. And going away, Palace outsing pretty much every team. Maybe not so much against Leicester because, as Patrick said, we had other things on our mind. But just as a fan base, it's incredible. And there were enough empty Southampton seats that it's just...
Yeah, I mean... Southampton are one of the. I think it's one of the deadest ground. It reminds me of the Amex, to be honest. I think that.
Are they going for a Stoke thingy? Do you think? Stoke went really, really dead after being up for so long. Do they need to go down for a couple of years to really?
I don't feel that they ever had much of an atmosphere. The acoustics in the ground are not great. It all adds. The fact that they're expensive, boxes are right where the militant fans are. It doesn't lend itself to being much of a loud venue. But also, they were out of there in a flash. Some of them. It was a steady stream of people leaving before we scored the second, and then by the time we'd clapped the team off, there wasn't a single Southampton fan left in view. I mean, they were gone. They were out of there. Didn't see any outside. One guy on the train, bit leery. And he was, talking about Southampton being proper fans. I was like, no, they're not proper fans. And he's like, oh, well, better than Portsmouth. And I was like, no, Portsmouth fans would have stayed till the end. It's a university town. It's quite transient. It's hard.
Is that League One Portsmouth who took 3,500 to Sheffield Wednesday yesterday?
There you go. So wrap up with a few stats, I think. It was a fairly even game in stats wise. I've gone to load it, and there you go. We had 14 chances and 10 from open play. They had 8 and 5 from open play. Obviously, set pieces are where they really do their damage. I did see. I don't know if anyone else has seen it. Southampton put a picture out on their official Twitter of Ward-Prowse after the game with him and his hand up ready to kick a ball, saying preceding fortunate events, and then a load of Southampton fans going, you realise we lost, right? They rely on it way too much. It was interesting that the left-hand side is where they had almost all of their joy. Stats-wise, back that up. They had more down the left than they did in the middle third and the right-hand side. So it could be that they've decided that they wanted to try and attack Kleiny, but I think he did pretty well, and they didn't get too many crosses in from open situations. It was all dead ball stuff. Comes back again to perhaps we need to sort out the fouls issue, and of course the fact that it was another terrible performance from the referee. I don't understand. I've seen the footage back of Ayew's supposed foul where he got the ball perfectly and he looked really annoyed. Any other comments on the referee? I mean, is it even worth it these days?
Wasn't he the great Australian hope we all heard about? And well, what I did notice, my thoughts were during the second half was he was not giving a lot that a lot of other refs would have given, and actually that's where you've got the inconsistency. If you're going to ref and say, look, man up, you're going to get some tackles like that, just get on with the game, be a little bit harder, will you? Or you've got to say, oh, we touched you, therefore that's a foul. It's the consistency across individual refs, and unless you have the same one person refereeing every single game, you're not going to get that consistency. So it is what it is.
And Mike, just touching on the stats, going back to real quickly.
Yeah.
Can you take a guess, either one of you? I know, Mike, you probably just saw it, but Nick, you know what our possession stats were yesterday as far as percentages? Take a guess at the number for Palace. 62%.
You see, what you've done there is you've guessed so high that you've taken away from Patrick's point, haven't you?
Exactly, but that is ridiculous for Palace in general, but for an away match. I mean, I know we've done it a couple of times this season. I've actually looked it up, but it's something that's becoming a staple of Vieira football. And that's why I'm said before about how I can watch Palace play now, where before I couldn't watch us play, because at least we're getting on the ball. You know, we're ball dominating and it's fun to watch, as opposed to on a previous manager where we just give the other team ball and rely on a counter-attack. Again, I get Palace's DNA has been the counter-attack, but this style of football is so much better to watch, and it's the way to play in, you know, this type of, you know, Premier League, as Mike said before. Take out the top two teams, the bottom two teams, everyone else is very even. So if you can't dominate the ball and obviously convert by scoring goals, you're not going to be able to compete. So again, I just think it's so much better to watch.
Yeah. Well, I do think that Southampton's game plan, and they're not really a party team. We've said Ward-Prowse. I mean, where are they if they haven't got him? They're down.
And there are rumours he might be getting sold to somebody like... so if he gets sold, you're right.
But their game plan would have been, and they're like Watford in their shithousery, is get Ward-Prowse, wide Zaha up, try and get him sent off. That would have been their main game plan. He's not on the pitch at the beginning. They're going to be looking at each other going, fuck, what do we do now? So, I don't know.
On that, one of the comments on Twitter when we asked for some feedback was from Paul Nash, and he simply said, why is Shane Long such a C word? I don't need to answer that really, Paul.
DNA in his blood.
He's part of the team that play that way. So what can you do? On that note, let's just have a bit of listener feedback. And there's a particularly interesting little thread that Ebo, regular contributor in the comment section, he kind of had a thread with himself, which is nice to see. So I'm going to read out his comments because they're they're thought provoking. I think it probably lead to a little conversation from us, and it's going slightly deeper with stuff than we usually do. So he said, saw so much negativity aimed at the usual players after the Southampton opener, people questioning PV. We were by far the better team despite being 1-0 down at half-time. Do you think some fans have been a bit deluded and have unrealistic ideas as to what the team can achieve at present? With that in mind, see if he's replied to himself here, do you agree that this has been a successful season? The rebuild has only just started and I can see we're making the right moves in terms of recruitment and tactics. The summer is just stage 2 of the rebuild. There's a few players' contracts ending. My opinion, for what it's worth, is we're much further ahead than I thought we'd be. I know that's Hambo's opinion too. Mid-table finish in a semi is all I hope for, and I presume you mean by that a semi-final, Ebo, not something else, because that's a bit blue for this pod. And I hope for every season. I didn't expect it after the upheaval last summer. So, yeah, I mean, the negativity, are some fans, his words, being a bit deluded and have unrealistic ideas? Or is it just in the moment, passion, anger, and, you know, when we're playing well, going 1-0 down, you'd lash out?
I think from a Twitter standpoint, it's definitely at the moment to wind people up type of thing. I think if you're a reasonable Palace fan, and there are a lot of them out there, there's absolutely no way you don't think this has been a successful season. Again, clearing out some of the deadwood from last season, getting players on a permanent like Gahey, Anderson, Olise, Edouard, who hasn't a great season, but hopefully will next season. Getting players like Mateta to come through, play so well, getting Mitchell into the side as a stalwart. getting Wolf to his highest goal total ever, getting to a semi-final, watching the way that we play. I mean, it's been, and again, this is the first year of a rebuild. I mean, I am not a transfer rumor person, but reading some names that we've been linked to has me very excited. You know, I mean, I was Decor is a really good player. He came from Lens. I mean, getting Wan-Bissaka back possibly for right back would be brilliant. Even I think Klein's been really, really, really good in the time he played this season. But just the fact that we'll be adding more, because there's going to be players that are going to be leaving. I mean, I get the whole Twitter reaction, but I really become to the point where I understand people just do things on Twitter just to get a reaction, because that's who we are and that's who they are. But I think if you're being reasonable, this has been a very successful first season. And I think that if you listen to Vieira talk and how he says he loves the club, the whole Palace Foundation comments that he's made and the whole thing about the team, if he sticks around here for 4 or 5 years, we are going to have the best time as Palace that we've ever had.
He said that he wanted to stay, didn't he?
Yep.
He alluded to the fact that he wants to stick around, didn't he? Which is great. And, you know, you add to that, Patrick, you've got the academy, you've got the women's team, you've got the under-18, you've got the under-23, we've got this big catchment area, we've got an absolute legend superstar in charge. You've got a chairman that's been in long enough to actually know what he's doing, so isn't making naive decisions. You've got Dougie Freeman, who everybody chats. You've got the fact that Twitter's a microcosm of society, and you're going to get tossers on there anyway, so there's always going to be comments like that. But most importantly, for myself, I am enjoying going to football and watching how we play and watching how we are trying to make progress, and seeing a team of 11 players who've bonded, gelled, playing with smiles on their faces, and we all love each other at Selhurst. It is just the best times for a long, long time.
So slightly off topic. Slightly off topic. So today, and I'm a big YouTuber, I like to watch it a lot. For some reason, the algorithm popped up on Back of the Nest the Crystal Palace Fulham watch along from last season. So I started to watch like the first 10 minutes. So it's me, Hambo, and D from last year. And the 0-0. And I'm telling you right now, listen to that game and how miserable I was. And I'm talking about miserable beyond belief and saying, can the season be over? I can't take this manager anymore. Just get me to the end of the season. Please, Parish, fire this man at the end of the season. And then to go back to there to now, the difference is so unbelievable. There's no way you're going to get me to be down on this Palace side this season, because last year I was truly hating football. And I've fought Palace since I was 5 years old, which is now 52 years ago, early 70s, when we were in the first division, the old first division. And so I go back a long way. So I've been all the ups and downs. So for me to hate Palace when I've seen us be as low as we can possibly go is really, really bad. So for me to now say to you, I love what I'm seeing and I'm looking forward to the future, it means a lot. And that watch along, quick look back today really puts in perspective for me. I mean, I was miserable last year, just absolutely miserable. And I'm 100% different right now as we speak. So.
Well, that is good to hear. I just want to say, Nick, it sounds like you must be on some tablets, because you
I've got 65 tablets I take a day. The steroids end today. I might go on a massive crash. But yeah, it's put me in a good mood. I loved your the way the tone of your voice really raised to a high pitch of incredulity. Just as
there you go. It's amazing. I just want to say something that at Bristol Eagle, Colin was put in reply to Ebo on Twitter, which I think is very much more perceptive than certainly I would be. Agreed, the contrast in Patrick's style compared to Roy's reign has given some fans a false picture of where we are as a team. I think that's probably a really good point. You know, when you start playing the kind of football that Sky Sports wax lyrical about, and you're playing the kind of forward-thinking, creative football that really only usually teams that are mainstays of the Premier League play, there is suddenly a higher expectation amongst maybe people that are not long-term Palace fans. And it comes back to what I said, you know, our fan base is just exponentially growing. And as a result, you just get those people with much shorter fuses when it comes to football being bad. You know, when you got Chelsea, if Chelsea do something, you know, lose a game, their fans can be horrific. You know, Man United fans moaning that even though they're still, 7th in the league or something, other teams would bite your arm off for that. So, that's the wrong phrase. Bite their own arm off for that. I think that it's probably because we've been so successful in staying in the Premier League that as soon as you see some pretty forward-thinking football, you just expect them to win all the time. But it doesn't work like that. There's 16 good teams, and just because we're playing better football to watch, it hasn't helped Leeds. They're in a relegation battle, aren't they? So the one thing I will say is it seems like Brighton, Leeds and everyone, Sky Sports loved them as a result of their free-flowing football, but Palace never seem to get quite the same love.
Who'd have thought 4 years ago that a Patrick Bamford injury would put a team into a relegation crisis?
Well, there you go.
I'm sorry, but that's just
there you go. And that just shows how little the margins can be in the Premier League. Right, let's just end the show with a few 4-word reviews from straight after the game. I'll throw a few at you, gentlemen, and I will then ask you to give your thoughts. So, let's go for it, shall we? I'm just stalling while my page loads. I apologise.
We do have a currently higher better goal difference than Man United. I'll fill in with that. I'm just having a look.
Which is amazing, by the
way. So
that's amazing.
So beat them at last from Renshaw Barker. We do have a surprisingly rubbish record against Southampton. Did anyone have a bet on it winning yesterday?
No way. No.
And then Ebo himself wrote, "Have that negative Nellies." so there you go.
I like that.
I mean, a well-deserved victory. Would you say that that's the case?
Yeah,
we were better than them.
Yeah,
they only had their
very
set plays. How many shots on
they
target?
were very negative after their goal. And again, you mentioned it, Mike, about how it was a decent goal by them on the set piece, but I don't think they necessarily played that well or even tried. They had 8 shots nicked to our 14. So on goal, they had 3 on target. We had 5 on target. So as the away side.
SF Jerry, Vieira convicted, then validated.
That sums up pretty much.
Fair. Yeah. That's what we've been discussing for 45 minutes, Jerry. Absolutely. That you've summed up into 4 words. Yeah. Kevin TA Steph, squad rotation worked today. I think we can't argue with that. At Seagulls CPFC 1, player of the season, presumably referring to the fact that is now up. In the preview show, apart from talking about choose your own adventure books, which got me thinking about my youth. So cheers, Albert, for that. On those, if people remember them, my mum was always like, she's proper tight. So she'd buy like ex-library books of choose your own adventures, but they'd be missing like pages, so I couldn't finish the book. Yeah, but yeah, kudos for that, Albert. But yeah, player of the season, both Albert and Sam Hesketh went for Mark Gay. Quick word from each of you on whose yours would be, realising there's still 4 games left.
I'll be honest with you. I listened to this pod. I really think Gay is a great pick, but honestly, for me, it's between Gallagher and Zaha. And I really can't pick Gallagher because he's not our player, and that's the only reason I wouldn't pick him. But honestly, without him, we don't do what we do this year. To me, you've got to give it to Wilf because the 13 goals, the way he's played this season, have been so important to us. So as much as I think Gay has been absolutely brilliant this season, I'd have to give it to Wilf. But if Gay wins, I would say it would be well deserved. So,
yeah, Nick.
I'm going to say not technically the best player, but my favourite player this season has been
Mateta.
Mateta.
Good for you.
I love him. Again, I've seen him improve. I've seen the runs he's made get better. Mateta. He's got a brilliant chant, which I must do a remix of Eskif's once I download that because I've got a few weeks off. His goal against Millwall was one of my favourite goals of the season. You almost know what you're going to get from him, and he's like kind of gone wrong Balassi in the fact that you don't know what he's going to do next. He doesn't know what he's going to do next, but it's got a lot less finesse than Balassi had but he's just getting more and more skillful, and he's keeping Benteke and Edouard out because he's playing the system well and he's getting the goals. And yeah.
So I want to add, Mike, I don't know if, and Nick, I don't know if you guys have this in England, but an American thing is called the Comeback Player of the Season. Do they have that award at all? Have you heard that award at all?
No, it sounds good, though.
So the NBA has it, NFL has it. So I think if we had that award for Palace, it would have to be Mateta, because his comeback from last season being buried by Hodgson in the after scoring that great Brighton goal, and to do what he's done this season. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't think we do as well this year without what he's done. And I love Benteke, and I really like Edouard. I hope Edouard has a bounce back season like Mateta's had. But without him this season, we don't go as far in the cup. We don't just win in the league. So that's a great shout by Nick as far as he won't win it, but he deserves an award this season. He's been absolutely brilliant this season for us. And like I said, without him this season, we don't go as far as we've gone. Vieira's done a great job in unraveling what I think is a very, very important player for us.
I mean, Millwall always been the game of the season for me in terms of experience, and he was a huge part of that, obviously.
Yes.
But for comebacks, I mean, Nathaniel Klein, people didn't even want to sign him. I was so happy, and the fact that he's become mainstay of the first team, he's still got so much left in him. Right. It's just, I mean, who knows? I'd be happy with Gay. I'd probably vote Wilf myself, just because nobody was quite sure what was going to happen after he didn't get his move. I've been very happy with Anderson. Anyone really, to be honest. Absolutely anyone. Just a couple more comments, then we'll wrap it off.
Before you go on, it just makes a nice change. How many seasons in a row did we have? Whoever the goalkeeper.
Speroni.
Yeah, didn't Speroni won it 3 years in a row, didn't he?
Johnny Parr.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. CPFC Barbarian 1861. Ward Prowse. Excellent. I mean, it is worth saying Ward's had a couple of very spicy games, and there's a side to him that you don't see that often. So fair enough. A few people, including Mr. Serious, saying back to winning ways, and then we'll just end up with Lee Munden. Madness in away end. It clearly was. I don't know how much you saw on the TV, but crazy stuff. There's the kind of corrugated area at the back where everyone could make a makeshift drum. So it works really well for making the noise. And, a few people went over a couple of rows of seats. So it was a good day out. Fun had by all.
Yeah, Mr. Chris Clark, who does like to sit 3 rows from the back where everybody bangs. It was getting to the point of, do you want me to put your tickets next to me? No, I can't stand a bloke banging the Leicester sign at the back of the stand, get drum. Put us down the front a bit more so we could get out quicker. No, I know it was him. He likes 2 rows.
Well, he chose some seats that weren't that close to the HF, and we were, as a result, right in the middle between 2 sets of singing. Not really sure which song to join in with, that were both totally different timings. So, it's hard. I think it's just stick one area or the others next time. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to the show, and thanks in particular to everyone who got in touch today. We do read all of them. We can't use them all, but everything we get helps us create the show, so it is appreciated. And special thank you to anyone that leaves a review. Please, if you haven't done it before, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, wherever you can leave a review. It really helps, because it means that we go up in the algorithms. As soon as people start typing in Crystal Palace, we'll be up there near the top. So thank you very much. We know how many Crystal Palace pods there are these days. So if you've been listening to it for years, then it's appreciated, because there's many other places you could go. As ever, plenty more content for you across our social accounts. Mainly DR trolling Patrick. A wealth of live and recorded shows for you over on YouTube, including instant match reaction and a chance to get involved. Find us on everything by searching Back of the Nest, and subscribe, and be merry. Until next time then, come on you Palace.